Hello, my name is Dr. Anhui from the Animal and Veterinary Service, a cluster of the National Parks Board in Singapore. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to Ellie and ICAM for the opportunity to share what worked well for Singapore from our experience in the Trap-Neuter-Rehome Release Manage program for free-roaming dogs. Singapore has been free from rabies since 1953, but we cannot take this for granted. We have much to learn from our international and regional counterparts on rabies prevention, control, and management. Our key programs for rabies prevention include import control and quarantine, licensing of pet dogs and cats, TNRM of dogs and cats, vaccination of at-risk dog populations, biosurveillance, and outbreak contingency. The Trap-Neuter-Rehome Release Manage program for free-roaming dogs is a humane, science-based approach to dog population management. Dogs are humanely captured, sterilized, and microchipped, vaccinated for rabies, and tipped on the left ear for easy visual identification of sterilization status. R stands for rehabilitation and rehoming, where possible, or release of sterilized dogs back to the environment. The M in our TNRM program goes one step further than other TNRM programs, where we work with NGOs and community caregivers on public education and to manage feedback on the dogs, even after they have been sterilized. The TNRM Dogs program was launched in November 2018. Since then, we have made good progress. Over 4,300 dogs have been trapped, of which about 65% have been rehomed, fostered, or sheltered. Based on our population surveys, we estimate that there are about 2,200 free-roaming dogs remaining in Singapore, and about 80% of the free-roaming dog population has been sterilized, which exceeds our initial program target of 70%. We are also happy to see that public feedback on free-roaming dogs has decreased by over 70%. This is likely to be due to there being less free-roaming dogs in the environment, increased public awareness and tolerance of free-roaming dogs, and careful management of human-animal interactions and related disamenities. Reflecting on the progress made, the overall success of the TNRM program in Singapore can be attributed to 5 key factors. First, strong support in terms of political, social, and funding support. Second, adopting a science-based approach to dog population management. Third, close collaboration with stakeholders. Fourth, proactive public education and communication. And finally, continued capacity and capability building. I will elaborate on each of these in the rest of my presentation. Firstly, strong political will and leadership, which is closely linked to funding and resources. The TNRM program did not happen overnight. In 2014, our Minister of State led a study trip to Australia to understand the best practices for dog population management, together with our Veterinary Authority, Veterinary Association, and NGOs. This trip paved the way for development of a long-term roadmap and working group. The government played a critical role in development and funding of the TNRM program, and our politicians continue to support the program and stakeholder engagements. Government agencies also worked with NGOs to support the rehoming of free-roaming dogs, which we affectionately term as Singapore Specials, to high-rise public housing or HDB flats. In our multiracial, multi-religious society, we recognize not everyone may be comfortable with a Singapore Special in their neighborhood. Extra measures are taken, including dog temperament assessment and screening of adopters by NGOs, dog training and stringent ownership conditions to reduce disamenities to the community. Over 2,400 Singapore Specials have been rehomed since the start of Project Adore in 2012. AVS leads an annual rabies vaccination program called OpsVax Lissa. We vaccinate at-risk dogs in our coastal fish farms and offshore islands to build herd immunity and create an immune barrier to minimize potential spread of rabies should there be a rabies incursion. AVS works closely with other agencies, private vets, and vet students to reach out to fish farmers and dog owners to microchip, license, and vaccinate their dogs. In 2022, AVS opened our Center for Animal Rehabilitation, our first national facility dedicated to the rehabilitation of dogs. The center is designed like a home to help our Singapore specials get used to everyday home appliances, even learning to get into lifts and cars for vet visits. We are grateful to Dr. Jenna Kiddy from Dogs Trust UK, who provided valuable advice on kennel design and programs. Our behavioral rehabilitation program has helped to improve the rehoming outcomes of our Singapore specials. We have various forms of enrichment, socialization, obedience training, and behavioral modification. We employ positive reinforcement approaches, desensitization, and counter conditioning. Here we have muzzle training, where a Singapore special has learned to voluntarily put her snout into a muzzle for a tasty reward. The second success factor is having a science-based, data-driven approach. AVS carries out research on our free-roaming dog population ecology and abundance. We estimate that there are about 2,200 free-roaming dogs remaining, with about 80% sterilized. Our initial target of 70% was based on scientific literature and population modeling. On the left, you can see an example of our survey transact, which we use to collect data for population estimates using a multi-session spatial capture-recapture model. On the right, we are placing a satellite collar on a sedated free-roaming dog to track its movements and home range. These studies help us to better understand our free-roaming dog population ecology, carry out disease modeling, and refine our TNRM efforts. The third factor for a successful program is strong collaboration with key stakeholders, as we cannot achieve effective dog population management alone. In the case of TNRM, AVS works closely with vets, government agencies, NGOs, and the community. SPCA, as our lead TNRM partner, helps to coordinate efforts together with other NGOs to capture, sterilize, and manage our free-roaming dogs. Community animal caregivers play an important role as they often know where the dogs reside through their feeding routines and can help condition the dogs for capture. AVS works in close collaboration with stakeholders such as vets, NGOs, dog trainers, and community caregivers to develop guidelines on a wide range of issues, from TNRM and community caregiving, from rehoming and adoption, to dog training and behavioral rehabilitation. We also come together to celebrate milestones and special events, such as our Lunar New Year appreciation this year. Next, proactive public communication, education, and outreach is an important part of effective dog population management. Through community events, school talks, and management of feedback on community animals, we strive to raise awareness on responsible pet ownership and community animal caregiving. AVS has our signature Pets Day Out events in our parks, featuring educational talks and games, adoption drives with our NGO partners, and a pet-related marketplace. Our free pet health checks, or chats with a vet, are also very popular, as is our Pets Mania program, where children can learn what it's like to be a vet, groomer, or dog trainer. To raise standards of pet care, we introduced a new pet ownership course for dog and cat owners last year. The course is free, online, and available in multiple languages. Anyone can do the course, and it is mandatory for first-time dog or cat license applicants. The course covers biology, pet care and health, responsible pet ownership, and legislation. Here we have some screenshots from the course, reading the body language of a dog, and health considerations for brachycephalic breeds. The M in TNRM stands for manage. TNRM is not just a sterilization program. In Singapore's urban environment, where human-animal interactions are unavoidable, we carefully manage public feedback and actively promote harmonious coexistence with animals in our city and nature. We encourage responsible feeding by caregivers, feeding away from areas of high human traffic, and clearing uneaten food to reduce litter and pests. We put up educational signs in areas where free-roaming dogs are known to reside to let the public know to keep a distance and the do's and don'ts when they come across a free-roaming dog. Although Singapore is rabies-free, we have to remain vigilant and keep up public awareness of the disease. We frequently caution against buying of pets from illegal sources and importing of animals without the necessary permit. Finally, continued capability and capacity building. At the start of our TNRM journey, we focused on upskilling our industry and NGOs on practical humane capture and handling techniques. More recently, we have progressed to training on animal welfare and behavior. We partner Dogs Trust UK in holding public seminars and industry workshops, which are very well received. We have developed a basic and advanced animal management certification program for the industry, staff, and NGOs working in TNRM. Here we have SPCA colleagues demonstrating the use of trapping equipment and NGOs coming together to share learning points and challenges faced in animal capture. Of course, not forgetting best practices that we gather from our international and regional counterparts, both from within and outside the government. The open discussions and exchange of ideas provide valuable insights on how we can continually improve our policies and programs. In Thailand, we learned a lot from the Department of Livestock Development in their use of oral rabies vaccines, and from Soy Dog Foundation on CNVR. More recently, we visited a shelter in the Netherlands where they have a dog sensory garden with herb bushes and different ground textures for enrichment and stimulation. It has been almost 7 years since the start of our TNRM program, and despite the overall success of our program, new challenges remain. The friendly, semi-owned dogs have been sterilized and rehomed, and the challenge lies in trapping the more elusive trap-shy dogs. We had a useful discussion with John Pilvila from Humane Innovations on capture techniques and will explore new approaches. We continue to work with our TNRM partners and the community to address loose ownership, such as of semi-owned dogs in industrial areas, as well as to manage human-animal interactions in our urban city-state. Singapore is a small country and we don't have many free-roaming dogs. Still, I hope this sharing of our experience in TNRM and what has worked well for us will help others in their dog population management journey. Information on our TNRM program is available on our AVS website. Thank you very much.